Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Um, this one is to go through P2P enhancements. So not just what's been released by Ivalua already, but also just to give you a sneak preview of what's coming next as well. Okay. I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Karen, you might already know her, Sabrina as well from marketing, and we're going to have Laura joining in hopefully soon. If she hasn't, she will be. Okay, perfect. So yeah, let's get started. So in terms of today's agenda, we're going to be covering the new intake module and what's available within the intake module, how we can actually request something to buy, like putting in a requisition, but not from the requisition module, but looking at it from the intake management, how we can use that to actually make it very seamless for the requesters. And then also we'll look at enhanced quote to order add-on, which allows you to actually just, if you have a quotation from a supplier, you can just feed that into AI, and it can then create a purchase requisition / order off the back of it for you automatically. And moving on, we'll look at it from a requisition point of view. These two are similar. Enhanced quote to order and the quotation data capture is similar. It's just that the same feature is available within the requisition as opposed to just on the intake. We'll cover other things like, the new browse page that we can use, how it can be useful. There are options around. Not many people know these options. So some of these options you may have already have this in your system, but you may have not used them. So I just want to remind that these options are available. You may not even be aware of those new things. Yeah, like for example, extra costs you can add, discounts, when you're raising a requisition order or a purchase invoice. Also, there are options around automatically, allocating allocations based on templates. You may have used it, you may have not used it. So it's always good to actually get that reminder how you can use the template features to actually automatically allocate requisition, as well as on the invoices available as well. In the past, those of you who actually use quick quotes from requisition, you'll notice that you weren't able to actually bid on behalf of suppliers. Sometimes if you sent a quick quote to, let's say, 4 suppliers to fill in, maybe one of them, they have difficulties using the system, and you might want to actually just do it on behalf of them because they may have sent you an email. That functionality wasn't available, so I really have released that. So we'll see how we can use that as well. Change history. There's a new thing that's come out which allows you to actually see, the changes in a very quick way. I know this was asked by many of our customers, and there was no ability to actually have a side-by-side comparison sort of thing. It's still not a side-by-side comparison, but at least you can easily spot the changes. And when I go through that with you, you'll see how it is. There's better visualization of receipts and invoiced amounts from the order. So at the moment, it's a bit difficult when you actually go in and look at that information. It's not readily available unless you actually drill into the line and look at it, but they've actually given you on the actual main screen. And you can easily see on the line what's been invoiced, what's been received, as opposed to just looking at the total amount, received. So it's available on the line as well. We'll also look at what new things have come up on IDC. We'll cover that as well. And then also, this is the one that I'm really excited about showing you guys is to actually, you can now monitor the inbound emails that are coming through from suppliers. So for example, those of you who use OCR to recognize, you have a mailbox set up to actually recognize the invoices coming through. There was always an issue where, emails missing or suppliers saying, I've sent you an invoice, but it hasn't landed into Ivalua. and there's a mailbox in between. So you'll be able to now actually look at those emails coming through in your from Ivalua, and then you can reprocess them. You can even manage the spam emails that are coming through as well. Sometimes you can also look at that and manage those in our system, as opposed to going back to Ivalua all the time and getting to know what's happening with that. On invoices, we'll look at adding item as optional. It's the same thing as extra cost or discounts, but we'll see how we can do that there as well. We'll also look at a new add-on, which can actually show you the related invoices against the purchase order. So we'll look at that. There's also a new feature, rather an add-on, which gives you the ability to actually raise a pro forma invoice or a down payment invoice. Ivalua calls it, but I know in the UK we call that pro forma invoice. Most people call that, and how it can actually be used to actually match off the actual invoice. Okay. There is also an add-on which can give you, which can show you the possible duplicate invoices against an invoice. If there's a duplicate, it will show you those. And also we'll look at how we can accelerate allocation entry using the template options, which is similar to the requisition one. But one thing they've also released is that you'll have the ability to actually link your allocation to an item line, which was only there for the purchase order base, but for non-PO base, they've also released that. And then we'll look at some feature enhancements on AI. This PowerPoint I did a couple of weeks ago, so some are already been released. Like for example, the AI looking at reporting database as well as support agent. They already released it, but Ivalua are working hard on actually getting some, AI to actually help you detect fraud within the invoice side of thing, as well as you'll be able to conversate on an invoice using AI as well. So that's about the agenda. Let's deep dive into the presentation. So the first use case is, I'll just keep reminding myself actually. So the first use case is buy something. Yeah. So let's have a look at that. So I'm actually logged in and looking at my intake dashboard homepage. This is where you can actually look at what are the different types of intakes I've initiated. And by the way, this is a new module that has come through. It's not the same as the one that some of you may have been using. Okay, this is a new intake module that requires a license. But you can see it's telling me, some of the how long it's taken for me to complete a full intake process. Obviously, this is just my demo system, so you've got 6 days there. Also, cycle time by different types of intakes that I've been creating. Okay, and other KPIs as well. And if I look at the intake browse, you'll see that there are different intakes based on the type, and there are different types available. So buy something is more like, creating a requisition, and then there are others which we can cover in other sessions that we can have. But since we're focusing on just the P2B side of things, what I'm going to focus on is buy something for now. Okay. If we open up this one that we have, actually, if I just create a one, so if you were creating a new one, you'll just select the intake type, okay, which is buy something. Type in the description what you want to buy. So free text. So let's say this is this month's requisition that I'm to create. You can put some detailed description for the authorizers. Some of the information has already been filled in. And then here you have options to either add an item from a catalog. So people who actually have catalogs set up in their system, they'll be able to select it from that catalog, yeah, and add it to your shopping basket, so to speak, yeah, on the requisition. But if it's just a free text, let's say I just want a laptop or something, okay, I don't know where I'm going to buy it from. I may know some estimated amount, so I can put in what do I want to buy, how much, how many do I need, okay, unit of measure, what is my budget, the currency of the budget. You can see some of it's already defaulted. When do I need it by, and the category. So if it's, let's say, laptops, so I will select computers, for example, or whatever your taxonomy is, you'll select that. Yeah. So all the user needs to do is type in some description and just select the right spend category. That's it. Okay. And once they've done this, and if I look at one that is already done earlier, so this is the one I've done earlier, so I can show you that very quickly. This one I put in one catalog item and one non-catalog item. Okay, and you can see once you submit this, there is a workflow behind that. Okay, that workflow could be your initial intake authorization. Yeah, and then it will go into in progress when it's actually looking for um, when you submit this. So once you had your manager authorization, it can automatically create a requisition for you, which you can see in my case, it created a requisition for me automatically. And as a requester, I don't need to have access to the requisition module, but I have read-only access to this requisition. I can click on this and it will show me the requisition that's been created. Okay. And it's actually, you can see it nicely tells you how long it's taken to actually process that process. And then looks like when it went to the buyer, they have done some RFQ as well. Okay, and you can look at the RFQ that they did when I requested a new iPad to be procured. And then off the back of that requisition, the system then created two purchase order. One went to Dell Inc., the other one went to Dell UA in this case. Okay, and then you can see that after that, one of the purchase order was receipted, and one of that purchase order was then invoiced as well. Okay, so and that's why it's still in progress, because we haven't completed the full request that we had, because we asked for a laptop bag as well. But what we've done so far is probably the iPad that we bought so far and received it and invoiced been done. You can see you can send messages to direct authorizers if you need to. All of that can be done. So that is the sort of the intake process, very quick intake process. Want to go through. Second use case is the enhanced quote to order. Okay? So what this is there is an add-on release. I don't have a setup in my system, but I'm gonna just show you that very quickly. There's a video. I just wanna play that so you can see the functionality. And it can be installed, and we can train you how to use it. So if you were creating a requisition, you can use that type of intake process. So let's say you have got a quotation. Okay, so you can basically use that option to actually load that up. So you can see on the top here, we actually only uploaded the quotation that I may have received from the supplier. Okay, and I just need to now create a requisition in the system or an intake. All I've done is I've loaded that quotation in, and it's automatically read the lines from the quotation PDF, and it's actually entered that for you automatically. You can see, and if it's something's missing, you can then populate that. But you can see it's actually matched the category even automatically, and then off the back of that, it has created a requisition for me. You can see. And the rest of the process is exactly the same. I mean, there's no difference, because once you actually created it, it just helps you create that requisition off the back of the of a quotation as well. And that option is available on requisition as well. You don't need to use the intake process. We can install this so that if you don't have an intake module, then you'll be able to do it through the to the requisition when you're creating a requisition as well, which I'm going to show you, which you can do this through the actual requisition as well. So if we look at this one, on this one, you'll see that we'll do it directly from the requisition line. Or if you were creating a new requisition, if you wanted it to actually create a requisition, you could use the skill. And what it'll do is it'll ask you to upload a quotation. and it will actually create the requisition automatically. You can see it's actually telling us this is what I found on that quotation, and I've actually created a requisition for you on the left, and it's actually added those lines for you. And then if you have other quotes, you can import that by using that option, upload a quote option, and it will then load that for you as well. So for example, in this one, I have actually chose to create those items you can see. Okay, so that's how easily you can also do that. Next couple of enhancements with the new add-on released, you can now actually have a browse page for PR/PO lines. I mean, you know that normally the standard browse only gives you the header information. So for example, if I go into the requisition browse, you can see the requisition browse only gives you the header information. It's only when I go into this drill down, it might tell me the lines in there. But Ivalua have actually created this add-on, which allows you to actually look at the browse item, and you can export them. If I click on this, it will take me straight to that line from that requisition or an order, you can see. Okay, so that's a very useful one. We can add that as an add-on as well. Okay, so next one is the discount option we talked about, yeah, or an extra option you can add. Okay, the way it works is that let's say you want to add a new a cost or an extra cost or a discount, you can just use this option next to the browse, in the requisition line. So if I click on that, it will ask me an option, what type of actually option you want to add to your requisition. Okay, so these are the pre-configured one. You can actually add more to this list as well because there's a formula behind that. So you can say there's a discount in value, there's a freight charges. It could be just a value freight, maybe. It's an ocean freight, other cost, and you can define whether it's a detective cost or it's an added cost as well. Okay, so for now, if I just select a discount in value, you can see I can provide the value here. Okay, and I can then also say what supply is that for that discount, and then when you add this, you can see it's going to add this line here. So I've already done that, and it's going to add a negative line for you. So this particular one is added minus 110 UAE dirhams, you can see, and it's actually added that, and it will also show you that total value after the discount as well. Okay, so that is available on the actual, if you wanted to add an extra just line of a discount. Now, you also have the option on the actual line as well. Okay, similar option. So this is where the discount is only relevant for this line, not for the whole purchase requisition or an invoice. So invoice works the same way. You can do the same thing as well. So I thought I'll just mention that as well. So the next use case we want to look at is when you're creating a requisition or you're creating an invoice. Okay, normally it's relevant for invoice maybe when you're coding the invoice, is that you can use the allocation template to actually create that. Okay, actually this particular one is for the processing. So let me just show you this very quickly. I'll go up there and the total amount left. Scroll down a bit. See what the use case was. This one. Sorry, got a few that I need to go through. So this one, automatic allocation template. Okay, yeah, that's the one. So if I just go into one of the lines, what you can do on the line is when you're coding it, you can add another one. You can use a template. Sorry, it's not showing up here. Let me just open up another. Let me open up an invoice very quickly. So yeah, this one should do it. By the way, it's the same option on the requisition as well as purchase invoice. So if I scroll down, you'll see that these lines are linked to a line. So this one is linked to that test line. This one is linked to those two lines from the purchase order. If you wanted to code this, you can easily, let's say, select this one. You can say, I want to code this from just propose me what allocation I can use. And you can see it's actually proposing me from the other lines that I already have coded. So if you wanted to actually copy the coding from other lines, you can select this and it will automatically do that for you. Or the other option is you can actually go to the line and you can say, okay, by the way, for this line, I want to use a template. Okay, so the template, which is this option here, set allocations. Okay, so here when you go into set allocation, you can select a predefined template, and we can train you how to do this. So for example, maybe this one is equipment or finished goods or whatever, and you can see because it's predefined, it will automatically bring that up, and you can then change the percentage or whatever, and then you can save and apply, and it will automatically code that for you. Okay, so this option, template option, is available in this version as well. Okay. Another feature on purchase orders is the change PO history. So you can see I'm looking at a purchase order, which is this purchase order there, which is a change order. We have two orders there. I'll just refresh this very quickly. You'll see that on the actual purchase order, we have this was the original PO, and this is the amendment. And when somebody is looking at this, it's very difficult to see what the history is. Okay, but now they've given us this new feature. Okay, where you can easily see whether a line was removed, whether a new line was substituted. What was the changes from one PO to so this was the original PO lines, and these are the new PO lines basically. Yeah. So it looks like there were 3 lines removed and there was only 1 line added. Okay, so all of that can be easily looked at when somebody is authorizing it. Okay, as opposed to just be confused with what's been changed. Okay, so I think this is a really good feature as well, which authorizers can easily see and spot the difference. Okay, the next one is better visibility on the receipted and the invoice lines from the purchase order. So if somebody's looking at a purchase order, normally what happens is if you want to look at how much of this line is receipted or invoiced, you cannot see that from here. You would have to go into the actual purchase order browse, and even there it will just show you the total amount which is receipted and total amount which is invoiced. But if you're on a purchase order and if you want to see the detail behind it, you can't. With this option now, you can easily hover on it. You can see I've hovered on it, and it's telling me the received quantity is 10, received amount is 10,000, and the invoice quantity and invoice amount is that. And I can even click on this, and it will give me linked items as well. Yeah, so it's basically telling me this PO line, this is how much we've received. Okay, and these are the receipt number, and this is the invoice that we have. So it gives you sort of like a drill down feature. You can just click on it, it will take you straight to that receipt or multiple receipt that you have in there. So I think this is quite useful as well. Now the next couple of use cases is on IDC. Some I can show, some I can't. So I'm gonna talk through it with you guys. So those of you who actually use IDC right now, you can see you can probably notice this, where when IDC was actually trying to recognize the organization field or the actual cost center field or legal entity, whatever you want to call that. Everyone's got their own concept of how they have the organization filter. It wasn't recognizing it automatically. And now the IDC will actually recognize it from the purchase order. Okay, so if you have a purchase order, it will try and recognize it from the purchase order legal company, it will automatically default that for you. So this will really help you having to, at least for the PO-based invoices. Okay. The other issue we had was that if you received an invoice, well, not an invoice. So let's say if somebody's actually sent you a blank document or something, okay, it was still pushing it as an invoice for you to actually look at it. And when you look at it, you go, oh, actually, it's garbage. It's not actually invoice, and you were having to actually reject it. Now, what IDC will do is it will actually look at the document and it will try and make sense of it. If that document is not an invoice slash credit note or slash down payment, the new option that we have, it will basically stop the IDC workflow. What this will do is it will actually not convert that into a purchase invoice for somebody to look at it. Okay, it will just be in the queue of IDC for you to look at it and reject it from there. It just helps an extra step, basically rejecting. IDC will also now recognize multiple POs. Historically, it was only recognizing one PO. So if the PO is mentioned in the invoice email header, even if there were four or three POs, it was only recognizing the first PO. So now the automatic integration of that multiple POs will happen. It will automatically pick that up and link it to that as well. And this is the one I want to show you, the mailbox. So the mailbox, what Ivalua have done is given you the ability to actually look at the IDC mailbox. Okay. Now, before I show you the IDC mailbox, not sure if anyone uses this dashboard. Ivalua have really created this new IDC dashboard where you can actually see the accuracy rate of your supply invoices. So you can see that it's telling me what is the accuracy rate for these suppliers. It looks like Dell US because I normally use that on my demo environment. It's 100% accuracy rate, whereas some of the other ones, the accuracy rate is not that great. Okay, and even the recognition rate down to the field level is telling us. Okay, so there's a pickup email automatically, 100% accuracy rate overall, and all the other ones as well. So it just helps looking at it. What you can also do is some of the supplies where it's always going to be a certain value, you can also default this. So for example, if IDC is failing to recognize a currency, for example, you can say, okay, for this supply, try to recognize that. I know it's always going to be this currency, for example. So it will stop doing that. Okay. It will just use that default that you've defined. So that's some of the features. And then the exciting bit is the mailbox. So what they've given you is they've given you this option inbound email, and this works with any mailbox that you may be using with Ivalua. Now, when I say any mailbox, Ivalua can be set up with 3 different mailbox scenarios. One, which you might be familiar with already, which is the invoices being received from the suppliers. Yeah, so you have invoices at your company, mailbox. Suppliers send that mailbox. You'll be able to actually see the visibility from this menu now. Okay. The other type of, if you were using expenses module, you can use a mailbox to send expenses, and that can be managed as well. And the third one, if one of you is using, let's say, authorization by email, okay, then Ivalua can also monitor that mailbox as well. But most of our clients are using invoice mailbox than anything else. But you can see that you could have multiple mailboxes based on those scenarios. In my demo system, I don't have anything, but it will show you all the invoices received today, or whatever date range you can provide. You can filter by who from a sender email, whether an email that's been received with the attachment, whether it was already used or not. Yeah, so all of that can be filtered by, so you can be sure that if an invoice landed, you can even retry, the invoice from there. And not only that, you can also manage spam. Spam is where, let's say, you set up, you receive an email from a supplier who is not in your accepted list. Okay, it will go into a spam folder, and if it went into a spam, and that's where most of the invoices were being lost. Like your supplier is saying, I've sent you an invoice, you haven't received it. It's because it's going into a spam folder. what this will allow you to do is you'll be able to see all the invoices that gone into spam, and then you'll be able to actually mark them as not spam. So next time when the invoice comes through from that supplier, you'll be able to, it will land into the inbox and it will be automatically be processed by the OCR engine. You'll be also be able to actually maintain the whitelisting. Yeah, so you can add that in there as well. You'll be able to whitelist some of the email addresses as well, the ones that are going into spam maybe. Okay, so I think this will be really useful in that sense. Next, few enhancements. You can now see a purchase order similar to how you can see an invoice from a purchase order. You can now see other way around. So if you're looking at an invoice, so you can see I'm looking at an invoice, you'll be able to see the linked purchase orders. So if you have multiple purchase order linked to that invoice, you'll be able to see those multiple purchase order from that invoice. That is an add-on that we can install and which will allow you to do that. Another feature, if an invoice is a duplicate, okay, so you can see this invoice is a duplicate. Okay, it's got a message. Even on this one, the invoice number already exists. If that invoice happens to be a duplicate, you'll have this new tab next to it, and that's an add-on as well. And that tab will effectively actually show you the duplicate invoices. If you've got multiple, it will show you that multiple invoices that are duplicate linked to that. So it'll be easy for you to actually go and navigate and look at whether it is a duplicate or not. Okay. The next enhancement on invoices is what we call is a down payment. So if I just go into, let's say, an invoice browse, you'll now be able to see another option called create a down payment. Okay, and what that does is and also IDC will recognize a down payment as well. You'll be able to train as well. But when the invoice comes in, if it's a down payment, you'll see a different type. So the type will be DPY, which obviously we can change if we want to. But you can see that it'll have a different type. Okay, and the way it works is you'll be able to release a down payment invoice. You could have a different workflow even for a down payment if needed, because it's not being matched with anything. You need to just pay that pro forma invoice. Once it's actually released, it will go into your system as a normal invoice. You pay that, and you can get a payment marker back. That's all standard. Okay. In terms of how it behaves when the actual invoice comes in, is where the change is. Yeah. So if you look at this invoice, I've already registered that invoice. It's an actual invoice that I've registered, and because that supplier has a down payment, okay, what will happen is you'll get an alert, which you don't see it here because I've already matched it, but you'll see an alert saying, by the way, this supplier already has a down payment that's not been matched yet. Yeah, so you have the option to match this invoice to a down payment if needed. Yeah, what this will allow you to do is similar to how you can link a purchase invoice to a credit note, you'll be able to actually link it to a down payment. Okay, so in this example, I've actually linked it to that down payment, and what this will do is it will actually reduce the payment amounts. Okay, so if I scroll down, this invoice was for how much? 40,000. Okay, and because I've linked it to a down payment, you'll see that it's actually taking the advance out. Okay, and then the remaining one is left is the 24,000 after detecting the advance payment that we had. Okay, this way when this invoice goes into, obviously if we implement this, there is an integration change that we would need to do, where that we'd have to change the integration so that when the invoice goes into your system, we're sending the right payable amount basically to you. Okay, so you'll have an invoice amount and a payable amount, which is different. Okay, so that's how it would actually help you with that process, pro forma process. Okay, the next one I want to cover, I'll go to the next one, This one I think I've already covered. So this is where you can actually do the proposed allocations and everything. So the only key thing is you now able to actually link it to the actual invoice. Now, why this is important? Because in the past, some ERP system, when we actually send this invoice into ERP system, cannot cope with if it's not linked to an invoice line. Yeah. So we'll be able to do, better integrations with that now, hopefully. Okay. Um, Let me just go back to my agenda very quickly. So I've covered all of these apart from the future enhancements. Now, there are some enhancements coming through. For example, EVA can be used to actually code the invoice for you. So it will look at your previous invoices that you've created, okay, how you coded that similar invoice in the past, and it will actually suggest you the coding or even be able to actually do the coding for you. So that is coming through soon, hopefully in the new year. Uh, by end of this, by end of next month, I've been told that there will be an add-on or an enhancement released in version 182, which will use AI to actually detect fraud. Now, when I say detect fraud, it's not looking at a service or anything, it's looking at the data. So if, for example, you have raised an invoice a couple of times with the same amount or from the same suppliers, it'll be able to flag that as a possible fraud, okay, with its fraud percentage. You might say, I think it's probably a 90% fraud invoice. Can you check these invoices? So it'll be able to help you with that. And then once it's actually detected that as a fraud, you'll be able to actually chat with that on the AI. You can say, okay, why do you think that is a fraudulent invoice? It can then come back and say, okay, by the way, these are the invoices I think that you should be reviewing, and that's why I think there's a pattern. Maybe it'll be able to suggest that there's a pattern to that as well. Okay, so these two are really exciting stuff that's coming through. There'll also be an AI usage dashboard Ivalua will be releasing. Why it's important? Because then you'll be able to see how your organization is using AI. You'll be able to see which other individuals who are using more AI than the others. They might be using quick, contract creation using AI. They might be conversating with the AI more. So you'll be able to see that history on a dashboard, who's using what sort of AI capabilities in the system. These two, chat with reporting database and chat with the support agent, is already been released. Some of our clients who are using the AI already can start using it. We can also show you that through the chat. So I'm going to show you these two very quickly. So if I just refresh this, refresh my page, please. Okay, so with the EVA now, what you can do is you can ask it to actually look at the reporting warehouse and tell me. So for example, I could say, could you please tell me total spend against that link, okay? And if I put that in, I didn't even need to tell it to look into the reporting database, by the way. It's very adaptive to how you ask the question, and it knows that it actually needs to go and look at the reporting warehouse, the cube that it get refreshed. So you can see that it's automatically recognized the fact that you're asking for it to actually give me the spend that's been done, and it will come back with the spend amount. And then you can further ask, provided those indicators, the actual cube is active, okay? Because sometimes you have to tweak it a bit to actually activate it for AI, but we can help you with that if you're interested in that. And you can use that, you can start conversating. The other thing you can do is how sometimes you look at you look at creating a new contract, okay? And you wonder what those fields were, okay? What you can now do is you can use AI and you can ask a few questions. So you can say, okay, how do I, so let's say you don't know what sort of alerts you're going to get from a contract. you can say, okay, what are the different type of contract alerts I can get out of the system by default? Can you give me details or something? Okay. And then what is now, I didn't tell it what type of question that is it's actually making that decision that you're asking for it to actually go and check something in the system. Yeah. So it all of a sudden it recognized the fact that it needs to go and look at the help center. Yeah, which some of you may have seen how help center works. But what it's done is actually scrolled through the help center and saying, okay, by the way, yes, the application provides several types of contract alerts and the notification by default. Here are the details. So we know that we have a contract validity status notification, and it actually tells you what those are. So it's sent when a non-evergreen contract reaches its renegotiation step, for example. For example, there's a document workflow notification that gets sent out, and I can even ask, okay, what's the content of that email? And it will tell me what that content of that email is. And it's also giving me references, so I can go and look at it. So if I click on this see where it's actually pulled all of that information, made it very meaningful, and it will take you straight to the help center as well. So I think this is quite powerful. I hope that before you log a ticket, you can maybe ask Eva, before, you can ask that question, you can do that sort of the triage before you come to, our help desk, and it can just, help a lot in terms of learning as well. So I'd like to just go back. I think I've covered all of the use cases, and let me see what's next. Now, in terms of, and we will share this slide with you. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but those of you who've actually, went through different, webinars with me, you'll know that I published this afterwards, is that the ideal version is 180 or 182, okay? Most of these enhancements I've shown you, they're definitely in 182 as well as in 180, okay? Some are AI driven, some are add-on, some are just out of the box, okay? So for example, and some may require some changes, okay? Like for example, extra cost. If you're happy to use the standard drop downs that were there, then there's no changes required. But if you do want that to be expanded, then there will be some changes required for us to do, okay? So I will share that. Whether it requires an add-on to be installed, I'll make that very clear on this, and we'll send that over to you later on. So again, couple of sessions. By the way, we're not going to be doing one session. We're not going to be doing a session in December. There's a lot of, I've got 2 weeks off, by the way, so I can't do it. So we'll hopefully do this next session in the new year. So again, I'm looking for suggestions, what you want to actually look at next. In terms of my roadmap, I'm going to go through category management and program management next, and employee expenses as well, which is a module within Ivalua. Not many people use this, but it's very powerful, and I like to show that to you guys, as well as the payment modules within Ivalua. I think these are the 3 I want to go through in the next couple of months, but I'm open to suggestion to what else you want to go through. So yeah, I wanna open the floor to any questions. I don't know if there were any. I know Laura have been answering those questions, hopefully, but if there are something that you want me to answer, Laura, let me know. I can do that.
Yeah, Zishan, we've had a quiet group today. No questions have been asked in the chat, I don't think. So, Laura, have they say? But I've just said in the chat, feel free to drop suggestions for future sessions, either in the chat or just drop me an email. Obviously, these webinars are run to give you a chance to learn more about what's new, what's happening in the system. So we're completely open to being responsive to what you think would help.
Yeah,
thanks very much.
And I hope it was all useful. It's not that you haven't asked any question, is that you were bored or anything, but hopefully this has added a lot of new stuff that you can then take on and come back to us. Feel free to come back to Karen if you want to enable some of these features, and we can help set that up for you guys. Yeah.
I think there was a lot in this session. It was the first P2P one, so there was a lot to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We can take maybe 12 minutes back. So thank you very much. Have a good week ahead. Cheers.
Thank you.
Zishan, thanks everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Val. Take care. Bye. 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 So in terms of performance, we'll look at recurring performance and any feature enhancement, like I said. So let's have a look at those things. Okay. So in terms of the risk and performance, they do appear on different home pages. So you can see that some of the risk KPIs can come up on the buyer page, can come up on the risk performance page. You can see that this is an example where you can see the last risk score and the performance score against a particular contract. Okay, and you can look at this KPI. You can see if you look at a contract which is not performing very well in terms of the performance and the risk is high, then it actually looks at the system puts it into this far left, bottom left corner, which is to say you need to start replacing this supplier because they're not doing very well. And there are KPIs, drillable KPIs. These are, so you can look at the supplier, you can start to collaborate with them, you can look at the scorecard behind that. So all of these are KPI driven. You can look at that. But what we also have is for risk managers, we also have what we call is the risk center. So the risk center is where, as a risk manager, you can look at it on a like an overview page where you can actually look at it holistically, where we are with the different suppliers that they are managing. Yeah. Now, in terms of their risk, so if we look at this one, we already looked at initially, but if you look at on the far right top corner, the initial risk assessment required. Now, this is generally what happens is as you're onboarding new suppliers, the system will actually trigger risk assessments automatically based on certain criteria. So, for example, if you look at this one, it's telling me that it needs a risk scorecard created, meaning that we haven't done any risk assessment for this new supplier. Okay, although it's an active supplier, we haven't done any risk assessment for this. This supplier is only in the registration stage, so you might want to actually look at doing risk assessment. Okay, so all of these are filled in when somebody needs risk assessment. In terms of ongoing risk assessment, Ivalua will basically can actually look at certain fields as well as third-party risk providers, yeah, and it can actually flag up any alerts. So, for example, this supply here is actually put onto a sanction list, yeah. Because it's put onto a sanction list, I need to do the risk assessment again, or at least review their risk. And then what you can do, you can create a risk assessment and see how the score is in terms of that. And then you can make a decision whether to actually keep them active or disable them or have something in place to actually improve the situation. Okay. If you do want the supplier to actually improve the situation, then you can also have a control plan or a mitigation plan, we call it. Sometimes people call it a mitigation plan or improvement plan. You can have that in place with them. So you can see that on this dashboard is telling me, okay, there are different suppliers who have different, mitigation plans or collaboration plan with them. Okay, and what this means is that you have something in place with them to actually work with. Okay. You can also see other things, how many evaluations we've done versus how many are in progress. All of that is in there as well as other KPIs like any issues. So we can use, together with the risk and performance module, we can also use the exceptions or the issue management module as well, which is obviously is also a risk. If you think about it, if you have many risks, that means against a particular supplier, that means the supplier is not doing very well probably, and that's why you have so many issues with them. Okay. Also, how many active plan which is the same thing as the control plan. And if there are any missing documentation, that might be a risk as well to your organization. So you can see on the risk center, on a high level, it shows you all of that. Now, we also have what we call is a performance center, but I'll go into the risk in a minute as well, but I just want to show you the performance very quickly. Similar to the risk center, we have a performance center, and this is where you can actually see how well the supplier is doing in terms of their performance, any performance scorecard that you need to be looking at. So for example, this supplier is doing average. If I look at this, it will drill into the supply, or rather the supply performance scorecard that we have. Okay. Again, similar to risk mitigation plan, you can also have improvement plans if they're not doing very well, and you can have a plan in place with them to actually work and improve that situation as well. And there are other KPIs in terms of comparison, as well as campaigns are running. So campaigns are like recurring improvement, recurring assessments basically in the system. And I'll show you in a minute how we can use that as well. So if I go back to the risk just very quickly and see how we can. Yeah.
Sorry, Zishan, can I just interrupt you just because it might go into your flow? We've had a question about are you going to be able to include something about supplier segmentation and this impact on risk and performance? If you I don't know if you want to do it now or do it at the end. I just wanted to let you know the question was out there.
No, that's a good question. I didn't have it in mind, but I will show that, Stuart. I saw your messages now. Yeah, no worries. So just to touch base very quickly on the segmentation is that Ivalua has a segmentation. It's not really a module. It's more of a feature, okay, which can be used to actually auto segment your suppliers as well. So not only you start with the segmentation, but you can also automatically segment the supplier as well. And I'll show you at the end when we have time how we can do this. Now, just coming back to the risk, there are a number of ways we can assess the risk here. If I open up one supplier record, if I go to my most favorite supplier, Dell, and look at the scorecard, okay? Now, the scorecard can be made up of different sources, yeah? So one of the sources we talked about is third-party risk providers. So if I look at external sources, I've got many, in the list, so I've got 2, but I can link to any other third-party tools like, DNB, there are Integrity Index, there are many others. And at the end of the session, I will cover all of the pre-built connectors, which are either Ivalua have created or we as TSM have created in already, which you can actually, pick and choose, and we can install it and we can configure it for you out of the box. They're pre-built, and then we can customize it based on your requirements as well. So some of the information here could come directly from there. So if you look at this one, this is coming directly from Awardis, this information. Okay, so there's a score coming through. And then if you look at this is the score coming through from Awardis. This one, if you look at this one, this is looking at a particular documentation, and because that particular documentation has not been provided, the score is high. This particular one, if you look at it, is looking at a particular field which is probably coming from third-party tool, okay, and it's telling us that because they happen to not on a sanction list, they are actually a low risk to organization. Another example could be the address of the supply. So if a supply happens to be in a high-risk country, and by the way, you create your own risk. Every customer is different to how they assess their risk. And then the country risk could be specific to whatever you think that country risk is. Yeah. So based on the information we have, it is a medium risk to us for the supplier, the country they are in. So you can see some of this information can come through from there, but as well as that, it can also come through from a questionnaire. A questionnaire could be an evaluation or a risk type questionnaire, which is a scoring type questionnaire. and that questionnaire can be sent to various different stakeholders. So if I look at one example here, so let's say that there is a recurring risk assessment questionnaire, and you have different sections and subsection, but you can see that every question has a score, and every section has a score as well. Okay, and that builds up and will come up with an overall score here, as well as it will actually feed into that scorecard that we have. So that scorecard, some of these elements could be coming through from a particular last risk assessment that you have done. Okay, so I hope some of these sources we've understood how we can actually bring them, as well as looking at the supplier risk. We can also look at any linked supply, meaning in the hierarchy, you can have a hierarchy of suppliers where you have a master supplier and a child supplier, and you can also have a sub-tier. If you have a sub-tier network, you mean like you have a contractors, subcontractors, then we can also look at that as well. Okay. Now, let's have a look at a questionnaire in a bit more detail, because I want to show you the functionality in that scoring questionnaire that we can use. So if we look at supply risk questionnaire, which we looked at supply risk assessment, what we can do is if I look at the questionnaire, every section can be actually defined a weightage. Yeah. So if I look at this option here, reporting setup, I can define, okay, this section has a weightage of this, which is 50% of the whole questionnaire. This subsection has a 17%. So you can make that up and configure that, and based on that, that questionnaire can be calculated. And in future, Ivalua are going to actually allow us to actually change this calculation behind that, because most of you, if you've used a questionnaire, you'll know that questionnaire is weighted average formula, but it can be tailored in future. What I've been told by Ivalua, that you can then have your own calculation on that as well. Okay, so let's just go back to our risk center again now. Now, actually, before I go into risk center, you can also automate these questions. So the way we've done this risk assessment, it could be that tier one suppliers, or based on the segmentation, like you said, Stuart, it could be your tier one suppliers has to be reassessed every 6 months. For tier two supply, it could be that every 12 months you have to risk assess them, and you can define the criteria as how it's going to trigger that. And what the system will do is it will automatically create this risk assessment campaign. So if I look at one of the campaigns, it will automatically trigger that campaign, and it will send it to those suppliers based on the segmentation. It will automatically send that questionnaire out to them. They will see that, and we'll know who to send it to based on the suppliers. We will send that. And as a campaign manager, then you can actually review the campaign, whether somebody submitted the evaluation from your internal users. Have you approved that evaluation that they've submitted or assessment? Is it in progress? And you can also send them reminder. The system automatically sends the reminder, but you can also send them a nudge if you want to. And once the campaign is finished, you can also look at the score for the campaign and different criteria that how you look at the risk against suppliers. We'll tell you that as well. And then at the end, you can also create, the scorecard as well off the back of that, if needed. Okay. So let's look at our agenda very quickly where we are.
See, Sham, while you're just having a slight break, there was a question from AJ about if risks raised against each contract, do they get rolled up to a supplier level, or are they, maybe you can address that one. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So if we look at the supplier record again, I'm going back. When we look at the risk, that score that you have against the contract is also inherent here. Where is it? It should be here you go, this one. So it is also looking at the risk against the contract that you have. So the supplier overall risk score is also looking at the contract risk as well. Now, this is just an example. It's looking at that. If you have multiple contracts, then it will actually look at that as well. Hope I've answered the question. It does trickle through into the supply overall risk as well. Yes, that's correct. Now, we can also use Gen AI to answer a few questions. I mean, always be cautious about what you're asking, obviously, because it just looks at the internet. So I could ask things like, okay, do you know of any adverse media events for Delink recently? Okay. And then it'll go out and, troll through, web scraping it does. And it basically goes and finds out whether there are any adverse media events against this supply. So looks like there wasn't anything in this year for Dell. Okay. I'm sure if you ask for other suppliers, it will come up with that. But then you can use the information. You can even tell it, you can also tell it to actually give us references. Okay. And it will come back with references to where it's actually found that information. So I could say, were there any events in the past 10 years, maybe? And see, and I'll try and find if I can find anything. And then I can also tell it to tell me if you can give me your references, where did you find this information? So there you go. So now it's telling me, okay, in 2021, we had this incident. In 2017, we had that incident. So I can say, can you please give me the exact references? And then it can even give you what we call is the link to the source, hopefully. There you go. So it's actually giving me the links as well in there where you can actually find these references. Okay. And there are other use cases you can use. So you can see that this was a financial report. I can actually click on it. It will take me directly to the source that it's actually used. Okay. In terms of evaluations, okay, normally we do not have third-party sources, but for the risk, we do have risk third parties. One of the standard ones is DNB that we can connect to. There's BVD as well. I think they're called Moody's now. But we can connect to, if you are using an existing third-party provider, we can use that. Now, in terms of when we connect to these third-party tools, we can also monitor from the third-party tool. So if you look at this on the right side, you see there's a risk identified. Yeah. So if I maybe click on that, it will take me to the risk that I've been, there is identified. So not only it actually connects and brings back some of the data, it also is used to actually do the monitoring. Now, the other thing we can also do in the system is we can automatically create this risk score. I mean, normally what happens is you have to actually click on this button to manually run this risk scorecard. Yeah. So it doesn't automatically update as such. You have to click on this and it will show you the up-to-date risk score. Now, in the past, for some clients, we have actually automated this process, meaning that every night it used to actually update the risk score. But to be honest, you don't have to do this because we need to identify the triggers to when we should actually update the scorecard. So what Ivalua have now done in version 180 onward is that as opposed to refreshing the scorecard every day, which will just clutter the whole, your report here on the right, which shows you the trend, okay, of the score changing. We only look for the changes and then trigger the scorecard. Okay, so what that means is that you could tell me, okay, Zishan, if my sanction field, if anything changes on that field, only then trigger a scorecard and send it to me, okay, for review. So what it will do is, if let's say this supply was put on a sanction list, it will create a scorecard, and it will actually put it here for me as an alert. You get an email as well, but you'll be able to see the alert, and then you can look at that scorecard, okay, that the system has created, okay, and see why the impact has changed, okay. So this will save a lot of time in terms of trolley through and looking at what has changed from day to day. You don't have to do this. The system will only update the score if there is that change identified. Otherwise, it will be the same score going forward. Okay. Now, in terms of automating questionnaire, I just wanted to mention one other thing is that if I just go to the questionnaire template, in terms of when you create the questionnaire template and you need to trigger, out of the box, we have two things, so you can say, send the questionnaire out to suppliers who've not had a campaign in recently. Yeah. So what this means is that if a supplier has not had a campaign done within this year, then it will send it to them. Otherwise, it will not send it to them. Sometimes you have to come up with your own criteria, okay, to say who it should send it to. What we can do is we can work with the customers and we can create that SQL query in the background. So you might say, Zishan, I only want to actually send the questionnaire out to tier 1 suppliers. It's nothing to do with the spend, or it's nothing to do with whether they received it last time within the 6 months or not. It's every other 6 months, I need to send it to tier 1 supply. So for that, we can write a SQL query and give you another selection, which you can then use to actually create your own automation. And the automation can be period based, meaning that it can be monthly, yearly, or daily, or it can be an event based as well. When we select event based, then we have to define that event, okay, in the criteria basically, okay, and then we can help you actually create that event because we can do that for you. And then based on that event could be like somebody put on a sanction list, then we need to send them a questionnaire to fill in, okay. So all of those can be done within the system as well. Now, just coming back to the question on segmentation, if I just go out to my supply record again. And if we look at the information here, we have a field called typology. Now, typology is another word for segmentation. Many people call it segmentation. Some people call it typology. A, B, C, whatever your segmentation is. Some people have a strategic, type of categorization. Some people just have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Now, whatever the categorization is, normally we would put it into this field. So you have that. And then you can then define, so this will be the segmentation day 1 for the supplier. But that segmentation needs to be reevaluated, every couple of months or every year, whatever the criteria is. Most people will have an evaluation of that segmentation, and that segmentation might change. It might change during the course of the year. It could be based on a spend level. It could be based on other criteria. What Ivalua can do is we have a feature what we call is tags. If I could just show you one here. Here you go. So we've got a feature called tags. Tags can be used to actually segment supplies. Yeah. So the way it works is we define a SQL statement behind a tag, and we say, okay, tell me what the criteria is. Is it based on values, spend, whatever the criteria is? Look for that, and then automatically every day update the segmentation based on that criteria. Okay, so it could be that if the value has changed, we spend more than $1 million, and that makes them a strategic supplier. Then the system can automatically mark it as a strategic supply and send an email out to somebody to say, by the way, this supply has actually changed its segmentation basically because of the rules that we've defined. Or some people, what they do is they do it every 6 months. They just run it every 6 months and then recategorize the supplies. So does that answer your question, Stuart? Or we can do automatic segmentation, or you can just do it manually as well. Hope I've answered your question.
I can see typing going on, Zishan, so there might be an answer coming.
I think we can also give mic to people. I think they can talk as well. I don't know if that's the right. I mean, I've covered.
The question was, can a supplier segmentation be overwritten? So, not overridden.
Sorry, what was the question?
Can a supplier segmentation be overridden? Can you override it?
Yes, you can. You can override it manually if you want to. Yeah, and some people, like I said, may want the system to automatically segment this, because it's a massive task for organizations to actually imagine you have 2,000 suppliers. Segmenting your 2,000 suppliers based on that criteria that you have as an organization could be a daunting task, yeah, every year. So Ivalua can actually help you automatically segment this for you. Based if you can define that criteria, and we have the data in the system to actually back it up, we can then do that automatically as well.
Okay. Yeah, you have answered the question, so yeah, thank you for that, Zishan. You got a thank you.
Okay, no problem. So I wanted to go through this new enhancements with you as well. So I've already talked about changing the calculation of the questionnaire scoring, and I've been asked this a couple of times before in the past, where Ivalua's scoring mechanism is based on the weighted average, and some people have a different criteria. Some people just want a very basic as, okay, this is 10%, this is 20%, and that's it. I don't want that to be based on the weighted average. Ivalua is coming up with an enhancement where you'll be able to actually, or at least together with the partners, we can help you put in that calculation in a SQL formula and come up with that. And that calculation can be used to actually do the questionnaire scoring, which will help you some of the clients who do want to customize it. This second one is actually very, very useful one, because I know, Stuart, you have asked as in the past, when we were implementing this, is that we can't really initiate a questionnaire in the system. So you can't just create a questionnaire in the system and send it to anyone. It needs to be linked to a supplier. You can't initiate a questionnaire to do the PIF process, to be very precise for you, Stuart, because I know you have that process in place. So, in the past, you could only actually create that off the back of a supplier object. Now, what you'll be able to do is those of you who use intake process, you'll be able to create a questionnaire on an intake. So you could create a questionnaire as part of the intake process. You can send that to the users to actually fill that information, as opposed to us creating all these fields for you on the form. Yeah. At the moment, if let's say on a form you need to ask a question to the supplier, you would need to get us to actually create that field on the supplier record. Yeah. With this option, you wouldn't need to actually create those fields. You can just create a questionnaire. It could be a very small questionnaire, extra fields that you want to capture as part of the onboarding, or it could be extra fields that you want to capture as part of the contract, maybe negotiation. You can just create a questionnaire, and you all are familiar with how you create questionnaire, and the system does not restrict you to only send that questionnaire to link it to a supplier. It could be linked to a contract. It could be linked to a user even. You can maybe ask your users within the platform to answer a questionnaire. It doesn't need to link to a supplier object, which I think will be a very useful change. And you can use the questionnaire not just for supplier, for many other options out there. Now, let's have a look at what is on the offering in terms of how we can actually configure risk and performance. Those of you who are on the new licensing regime from Ivalua, you would have to buy a risk and performance center separately. So there's a separate module for that. Some of you who are on a old license scheme, you may already have it. If you have supply risk and performance, you may not have it implemented, but you may have a license already. But feel free to reach out to Karen, and she'll be able to actually help you out whether you have a license or not. But nevertheless, you need a license, okay, to use those two modules. Now, we also have an extensive list of connectors. We worked with many, not just Ivalua, we worked with other products as well, as you know, and we have created those add-ons, as well as Ivalua have created some add-ons as well. Now, what's the benefit of having those add-ons or ready connector is that we wouldn't need to spend a lot of time actually creating a new integration, okay, because it's already there. So, for example, there is a connector for DNB, which is supported, 180 plus. As long as you have that connector, we will implement that for you. What we normally do is we show you what the connector does. If that is what you want, then it's a matter of installing that add-on, that connector. You're getting the license from Ivalua because it has a license implication, okay? And then we install it, we test it with you, and we deploy it in production, okay? We also have DNB 3 of DNB. You know how it works with DNB's data blocks. So for different data blocks, Ivalua have created add-ons. So you can see we have one for third-party risk insights. There's one for diversity and one for financial strength. Okay, and I'm pretty sure you can correlate with this if you're using it. And what it is, it's an add-on. You would need to buy in order to actually use any of these 3 DNB add-ons after the Ivalua connector. You need to have the Ivalua connector in order to use this add-on, basically. Okay, and once you have that, we can install it, we can implement it for you. We can also share details of what's included in this. And most people who are okay with this, there's not much implementation to be done. It's more testing and making sure that we deliver it all the way on to production for you to use it. We have also on DNB created InduD add-ons. Some of you who actually use that, we have created that. It has a license. Well, it's a subscription base, maybe, because it's our add-on. It's a TSM add-on, so it might be just on the subscription, which is effectively a license, basically. We also have a credit safe add-on, which is developed by TSM, and it is available. Credit safe is used to actually not only for risk check, it is also used for bank check as well. Sorry, the bank details check as well. So we can also do that using this. World check, there is a Ivalua add-on. Some people use the word check. There is pre-wave. There's integrity next as well. We've also developed an add-on with Companies House. So you can actually, when you're doing the onboarding of a supplier in terms of risk assessment, you can actually go and check into Companies House for the UK suppliers to see whether they are what they are saying they are. Okay, and you can use that as a risk check. EcoVadis IQ Plus, EcoVadis sustainability rating. Experian is another one that we have come across, and there is an add-on for us on the add-on store. We can use that. Moody's we've come across, and for any construction related customers, we also have Construction Line, which is another risk assessment tool, a third-party tool which we can use to actually do risk assessment. Any of these, anyone in the audience used, maybe interested in, let us know. We can always come back to you on further details what we have. In terms of future webinars, I'm really open to suggestions, guys. The one that I've got lined up for the next one is the category management using AI research to actually help you come up with the category research. So Ivalua covers, using AI, it can actually cover research, bespoke research, as well as other industry category management research options like the Porter's 5 forces. Ivalua can do that as well. So I'll cover that in the next session. Plus program or project management module will cover that. And then after that, we have the employee expenses. But I'm open to other suggestions. If you think that maybe the next one we need to do something else, let me know in an email, and we will cover that. Okay, if we don't have any questions, you can always send us the questions afterward. If you have any questions, send us an email, and we'll be happy to answer. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care.
Zishan. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.